Okay. Thursday change. Okay, so we're in the middle of Amir Lakim. Rishmam Dalad. We spoke about Schir Yoim. If you hire a guy and pay him a daily salary, that's an Isser of Amir Lakim. He's your Shliach. We spoke about Arisas. If you pay him not a daily salary, but you give him a percentage of the profits that you're making, so he's Ki'ilu, it's like he's your partner. And then there's a Svar of Adaitit Nafshei Kavod. Then we say that he's doing it for himself. You know, if he's got what to lose in the business, so he's definitely concerned more than if you pay him a daily salary as a worker. Even if you're not around, he's going to make sure things are running. So he's doing everything for himself. So there's no problem of shlichus, there's no problem of mir lakum, and it's mutter as long as there's no marasayin. We spoke about that. Now today, in Reish Mem Daled, the Shulchan Aruch discusses another way one could hire a guy, not by paying him a daily salary, not by giving him a percentage of the profits, but by paying him for the job. Right? Very common. Right? Take your car to the mechanic. You're not paying him for the day, you're not paying him for the hour, you're paying him for the job, to fix your car. Now, is that a problem of shlichus? You give your car in Friday, and he's instructed to fix your car over Shabbos. You're paying him for the job. Is that like an arus, or is that like a schir yoim? Which one is that doimet to? Which one is that compared to? So the Shulchan Aruch speaks about it, and he says like this. He says, if you make up with the guy to pay him a certain amount of money, right? You tell him, listen, $50 for the job. Sorry, 50 quid for the job. And you explain to him that you don't expect him to do it on Shabbos, there's no problem of Amir La'akam. But these two conditions are essential. You have to tell him that I'm paying you, and not just paying you, you have to make sure that the guy's aware of how much you're going to pay him. Otherwise, he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for you. He's only doing it for himself when he knows how much he's going to get for this job. Right? So then his mind is on the money that he's supposed to get from you. And plus, you have to make sure that he understands that he doesn't have to work on Shabbos. He doesn't have to work on Shabbos. So again, if you want to give your car to the mechanic, make sure you tell him, listen, you don't have to work on Shabbos. People don't know, but the Mishnah Berurah brings down, not in this sermon, but actually, yes, in this sermon, a little bit later on. Mishnah Berurah says that if you tell him on Friday, listen, he says, I'm not telling you to do it on Shabbos, but it's got to be ready by Matzah Shabbos, 7 o'clock sharp. I have to pick it up. Now, there's no way this guy can do the malacha unless he works on Shabbos. Then, of course, that's like you're telling him to do it on Shabbos. Right? No way about it. No other way about it. I mean, that's partial. I once had a friend, he told me that his father-in-law, he lives in Monsey, and he has a contract with a company that whenever it snows, and he's snowed in, and this driveway needs to be cleared away, and something that snows to the point where you can't walk out, you really have to clear away the snow. So he has a deal with the company that every time it snows, they come and they clear it away, and they get paid per job. So I said to him, "What do you do if it snows on Shabbos?" The company, isn't aware of the Hilchos of Amir La'akum. They come on Shabbos. He says, "Well, they don't have to come on Shabbos." I said, "What do you mean they don't have to come on Shabbos? The contract is that the day it snows, they got to come on Shabbos and they got to take care of the problem. Make sure that you're able to get out." So then, of course, that's a problem of kabbalanus. Again, you're paying them for the job, right? But at the same time, the job has to be done on Shabbos. So you have to make it clear, any such contract, you have to be clear that the guy understands, mitzad you, as far as you're concerned, this does not have to be done on Shabbos. That's very important. So for that reason, let's say, if you take out your garbage, and the garbage collector comes on Shabbos and picks it up, there's no problem of Amir Lakum. The garbage collector is not, reporting back to you whether he came on Shabbos or not. It's the government or whatever it is, the Uriyah. So there's no problem with Amir Lakum. there are those that want to say that if you take out your garbage on Shabbos, and you know that they're going to come that day to pick it up, then it could be a problem of Marazayin, but we'll see soon why it's not. Okay, so again, Kabbalanus means this. Now we're discussing a new type of way where you hire a guy, and it could potentially be a problem of Amir Lakam when you're paying the guy for the job, unless you have these two conditions where you kaitzitz with him, you make up with him a certain amount of money you're going to pay him, or you make it clear with the guy that he doesn't have to work on Shabbos. Now the Shulchan Aruch wants to speak about Marazayin. Again, I know we're focusing on Marazayin the past few days, and you might think to yourself, what's Marazayin, what's not Marazayin, and how grave is Marazayin anyways, it's such a big Avera. So before we discuss Marazayin Kabbalanus, I want to tell you what the Kaf HaChaim says on Marazayin. The Kaf HaChaim says there's a story with a fellow who was very, very zahir in Marazayin. He built his house in a Yiddish neighborhood, obviously. He was a Jew. And the workers are always interested, when they get paid for the job, to be done as soon as possible so they go on to the next job. So they are always interested to work on Shabbos. So sometimes you have to really be hard on them. You have to come down hard that they shouldn't work on Shabbos because of Marazayin. Even though they're working on Shabbos because of themselves, you're not telling them to work on Shabbos, there's no problem. There's no problem of Shlichus because they're doing it for themselves. But there's a problem with Marazayin. People don't know that it's the Kabbalanus. People are going to think maybe you hired them and you're paying them for the day. It's a problem with Marazayin. So this fellow, Kaf HaChaim brings down, he paid them extra not to work on Shabbos. And later on there was a sreifa, in the town, and all the houses were burnt except his. So that was the schar that he got for keeping Shabbos. On the other hand, Mishnah Berurah brings down Sefer Chasidim very harsh. He says that a fellow also built his house on Shabbos. He wasn't choishish for Marazayin, and the lashon of the Sefer Chasidim is it wasn't before long that he lost his property, the entire house. So Marazayin isn't something to be taken lightly. So Kabbalanus, apparently there would be a problem with Marazayin, because not everybody knows that, first of all, you told the guy that he doesn't have to work on Shabbos, he's doing it on his own accord, and not everybody knows that you're paying him money for the job. People are going to think that you hired him for the day, and you're even Amir Lakim, so there's a Marazayin. So there are a few ways to get out of it. One is, if you tell the guy, listen, make sure you take my car into your shop, close the shutters and everything, and make sure nobody sees my car in your shop while you're working on that Shabbos. There's no Marazayin, it's B'tzinah. Right? If it's B'tzinah, so there's no Marazayin, people are not going to see it. The other way, even if it's not B'tzinah physically, but if people don't know that it's your property, people are not aware that they're working on your property, nobody knows. You bought a property in secrecy, and nobody knows that those guys are working on your thing on Shabbos. There's also no Marazayin, nobody knows. So that's also B'tzinah. Another way to get around the problem of Marazayin b'Kabbalanus would be if...
Isn't there Marazayin anywhere? Like, even if you try and hide it,
it's still Marazayin.
Yeah.
You're asking a very good question. The Gemara in Shabbos says, I'll tell you what you're asking, I'll just elaborate on your kasha. The Gemara in Shabbos says that even b'chadri chadorim, that kol makam she'asru chacham Marazayin, every time chacham has said that you're not allowed to do something Marazayin, even b'chadri chadorim, it's asr. Don't think that if you're going to go b'chadri chadorim, it's a b'tzinah, so nobody's going to see. The asr even b'chadri chadorim. The Taz asks this kasha. The Taz says that that's only b'isr de'oraisa. When people are going to be choshid you for isr de'oraisa, that's a problem. Even b'chadri chadorim. For example, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, it's in Mishnah Aleph. I think Sef Mem Hey, the Shulchan Aruch says there that if someone's clothing got wet, right? Very common here in Manchester. You walk outside and clothing are wet. So now you want to dry your clothing. So you want to put it on a drying rack or whatever, to make sure that it dries. It says you shouldn't do it. Why? Because people are going to see your clothing in a drying rack. They're going to assume that you washed your clothing on Shabbos. That's why it's wet. And you're over Isser De'oraisa. So it's Allah Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to. Right? So that's only Isser De'oraisa. And even B'chadri Chadorim would be also to take your coat and put it B'chadri Chadorim and hang it up in a way where you hang it up the way you hang it up after you wash it, it's a problem. But if it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan, they're going to be choshid you on to begin with. So there B'chadri Chadorim, it's mutter. That's what the Taz answers. It's really a rush. He brings Rishonim for that it's mutter when it's only chashash of Isser D'Rabbanan.
If in a case where the goyim are doing it because it benefits them to do it on Shabbos, you mean you didn't tell them to do it on Shabbos? They could
Right.
They want to do a quicker job.
Right.
If you also are happy about it and you benefit from it, doesn't make any.
Excellent question. If you are benefiting, we're going to get there, not tonight, but we're going to get there. If you are benefiting from that and you actually want them, and if they're not going to do it on Shabbos, you're going to have a loss of money, then that's a problem. But, the regular everyday kablonis jobs we're talking about, when you build a house, you take another day, it's not going to make such a difference. Or, you have your car, perhaps maybe there would make a difference because you need your car desperately, after Shabbos. But in a case where you're not, for you, it's lemalav lemayrid. You don't really care. So if the guy decides to do it on Shabbos, then it's not a problem. As long as he understands that you don't want him, he doesn't have to do it on Shabbos. Another way to get around the problem of Marasayan, is let's say if it's mechutz l'tchum. Let's say they're building a house. But it's mechutz l'tchum, it's out of the tchum of the Jewish yishuv. So there also, the Shulchan Aruch says there's no problem Marasayan because anyways in Shabbos no yid walks mechutz l'tchum. So nobody's going to see the guy building your house. But it's very interesting because I saw Rabbi Zilberstein in the Sefer Malachim HaManayich. He says that nowadays that we have non-from Jews and they travel on Shabbos, so even Mechutz L'Tchum is Aser. Because it's going to be a Marasayan for the non-from Jews because they do travel Mechutz L'Tchum and they're going to watch, they're going to see Goyim working on it. As a matter of fact, it's also Rav Vosner, Shevet HaLevi. He speaks about Israeli being in Chutz La'aretz, the second day Yontif, for him it's mutter to do malacha. The only problem is because people shouldn't see him. So the halacha over there also, mechutz l'tchum, if he goes mechutz l'tchum of a Jewish yishuv, then he's allowed to do malacha on Yontif Sheni, because it's not Yontif for him. So Rav Vosner there writes a similar psak, that because nowadays you have non-from Jews all over the place, and they will travel mechutz l'tchum, and they will see do malacha, and it's going to be a zilzal and a chil Hashem, so one shouldn't do that either. Another heichatimtzi of getting around the problem of Marasayan is if everybody does this b'kablonis, right? Nowadays, you build a house, right? You go and hire the workers, each worker, and you pay him a daily salary? Of course not. Right? The derech ha'olam, wherever you are, if Goyim build on your property, they're building a house. So of course everybody understands you went through a kablan, a contractor, right? It's not that you went and hired each guy separately. So if the minhag ha'olam, if the entire world, the derech of the entire world is to do that, then there's no marasayin. Nobody's going to assume that you went shaloi kederech ha'olam and you went to hire workers and you're paying them a daily salary and you're over an amir lakim. Right? So if the derech of kol ha'olam is to do that, then it's mutter. Right? Again, a mechanic also, a car, you don't pay them by the hour. You pay them for the job. Everybody knows you pay a mechanic for the job, not by the hour, and there's not a schiriyah, there's no problem with schiriyah, no problem with miralakim. But here we come across a very, very interesting machloikas, halacha l'maisa, Reb Moshe Feinstein with the Bir Halacha. The Bir Halacha says, no, even if the entire world does something b'kablonis, he speaks about contractors, right, building a house, everybody does it b'kablonis, everybody pays it for the job, they don't pay by the day. He says, even then it's Asr. Why? Because the Maris Ayin that we're dealing with over here is not a Maris Ayin that people are going to think that he's a Schir Yoim, you hired him for the day, you're paying him a daily salary. Because then that's taken care of, the problem's taken care of, nobody does that anymore. The Maris Ayin is, and he brings a Ran, the Maris Ayin is because when people are going to see, people know that it's Kablanis, people know you're paying him for the job, but when people are going to see that you're paying him money, people are not going to be able, they're not going to think to differentiate between paying money for the job and paying money for a schir yain, paying money for when you hire a guy by the day, you pay a guy by the day. So people are not going to know to differentiate. People say, oh, if this is mutter, this is also mutter. So it's not going to help you the whole world does it with kabbalah, because at the end of the day, it'll come out of kilkel. There'll be a kilkel. What's going to be the kilkel? Because when people are going to see you're paying him money, so people will know it was the kabbalah, but people say, hey, what's the difference about paying money for the job or paying money for the day? So therefore, the Bir Halacha says it's asr. So according to the Bir Halacha, if you're building a house, right, and you're hiring a contractor to build that house, that contractor is not allowed, unless it's chutz l'tchum, to take care of the problem of marasayin any other way. But if it's in a Jewish neighborhood, you're not allowed to have that guy build the house for you on Shabbos. Even if everybody knows it's b'kablonis, because at the end of the day, when he receives that money, people will see, oh, he receives money, and there's no difference between receiving money for kablonis for the job or for the day. That's according to the Bir Halacha. And the Bir Allah brings a Noida B'Yehuda. He says the Noida B'Yehuda was Mitzaded Lahakol. And he says, Ulapella. Noida B'Yehuda is a Pella. That how come was he Mitzaded Lahakol? Because the Ran who holds of this Svara is not the only one that says it. It's a bunch of other Rishonim. So Moshe, he writes, he says, Ulapella ala Bir Alacha, Shetom ala Noida B'Yehuda. It's a Pella on the Bir Alacha. Why so machmer? And he's asking the Noida B'Yehuda, how can it be Mekel? He says that, first of all, it's a machlokes in a davar in Marasayan. What's the Marasayan? That's a machlokes by the Rabbanon. It's a Safek Rabbanon Lakula. And secondly, he's not not so sure with all the Rishonim that the Bir Allah brings down that they're the ones that hold of this svara that people are not going to be able to differentiate between a kablan and a schir yoim. So basically, Rav Moshe says that the ikar din can be mekel. If you have a contractor building a house for you, and as long as you didn't tell him to build it on Shabbos, and if he decides on his own to build it on Shabbos, there's no problem of Amir al-Hakim, and also no problem of Marasayan, because that's the whole world does that. That's the Derech HaOlam, not like the Bir Allah. But he says, look at Chila, since there's such Chilul Hashem and Chilul Shabbos nowadays, a person should look at Chila, refrain from it. But definitely, with the Yevad or Makam Hefset, of course, you could rely, and doesn't have to be Chayshish for Marasayan. Okay, we're going to finish early because we have Shir a little bit later, so I don't want to give Shir the whole night. Okay.